What's going on, everybody? This be your boy
DJ
DJ
Anonymous.
Anonymous with another episode of Sports Biz Music, the podcast, and I have a very, very special guest on the show today. I got my girl Jowanna Lewis. How you doing? How you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for asking. And thanks for having me on the show today. I'm super excited about this.
Nah, no problem, no problem. Thank you for taking out your time and just because I know it's busy right now. So thank you for just taking out 30 minutes to an hour of your time just to come on my show.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Let's get to it, right?
So before we get into the questions and to the interview, introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay. My name is Jowanna Lewis. I am a lot of different things, but I am a podcast host that deals with indie music. I run the LA Music Video Awards. I own an online radio station. So my whole world is, for the most part, pretty much music and indie music at that. I originally started with a show called Screw Pop Culture about 12 or 13 years ago. And then from that did Radio KSCR, which is an online radio station that I still run today. And in the last 5 years, we're actually celebrating our 5th anniversary as the LA Music Video Awards, which will be happening this October in Los Angeles. Luckily, we survived COVID and everything else, so it's nice to be going back to normal.
Yes, it's COVID, and knocked out a lot of canceled a lot of events. Kind of made us go, 5 to 10 years forward in the future, in most cases. But COVID it really, just messed up a lot of things and a lot of people. But thank God, we got through that storm. COVID's still here, but the bulk of that storm is kind of, left behind. But so you said you helped run the LA Video Music Awards?
Yeah, the LA Music Video Awards is my award show. It started 5 years ago. Actually, October 1st will be our 5th award show.
Okay.
That originally came about from I always come up with these crazy ideas, and people tend to not tell me no to things, or better yet, I think a lot of people tell me no, and then I just finally find somebody that tells me yes to something. But I used to do these screenings in LA of music videos. So we'd rent out a movie theater and do these midnight screenings of music videos. So for 2.5 hours, it would just be a bunch of music videos playing one after another. And we did about 5 of those. And after the 5th one, I said, we should probably do an award show to highlight the best of what was there. And so we did that, and I tried to do a couple of other screenings after that, and it just felt like that book had closed. And so I still wanted to do something to recognize music videos. And so that was the start of the LA Music Video Awards. And the first year we did it, we were at this really cool underground bar. It was, you had to know where it was at because it was inside a food packing district, and you had to go upstairs, and it was a horror themed bar. It was awesome.
Wow.
And from there we just kept building, and so now we're at this gorgeous theater in Covina, California, in Old Town Covina. There's a historic theater. We have the award show there. And we have a ton of people who fly in from all over the U.S. and around the world to participate in this award show.
So is this just based off, is it, because you just said as from everybody across the world, so is it pretty much independent artists coming to LA? Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a lot of independent artists. Every now and again, we'll get a popular artist as well, which is always kind of a surprise to me when, it's something that's gone viral, either on YouTube or it's a song that's just kind of crest, or an artist who, is signed to a major label and has submitted. That's always such a surprise to me. But a lot of the music videos that we get are just filmmakers and indie artists from around the world who are like, hey, this is what we did this year. And it does turn into really just such a magical event, because you're getting to see, no matter what happens, there's just still so many things that we are all, no matter what separates us, there's just still things like music and film still bring people together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's dope because I always felt like especially because I'm from Miami, so you do have it was a Miami musical festival. I think I went like a couple times, and it's a great event. Pretty much cater to all creators, musicians, filmmakers, even people that's like behind the scenes. And that during that time, podcasting wasn't, podcasting how it is now. 'Cause that was like early 2010, so I want to say like 2011, 2012. So when I was around it, I was just like, wow, like it's more than just it's more than just like, I guess how I can say, like, even coming from Miami as local, like coming from your city, but it's more people in your city than you think as far as like creators. So like having an event like that, like it just opened your eyes to be like, oh wow, I didn't know this person was from here and they so dope, So having an event like that you created, like that's dope. Especially for a city like LA. I've been to LA one time. Beautiful city, big, very fast, but
a lot of traffic. Yes.
Because I tell people this all the time. Miami is a major city, but it's still in the South, so it's not. A lot of New Yorkers come down, especially and also a lot of California. People came down here too since the pandemic. And they'll say like Miami, from what they see from the TV, is very different when they see in person. And I tell them like it's a city that's a bridge from from the country life to like it's just a mixture of everything. You get your city life, you get your if you want to be in the suburbs, if you want to be somewhere in the boondocks. It's just a mixture. But LA kind of gave me that vibe too, though, in a way, especially when I was in the Valley.
Yeah, LA is super spread out, but you can, no matter what you're looking for, you can always find it. LA's got the amazing arts district and great Chinatown, and there's just always so much to do. So I love LA because of that. And I used to go to Miami every year. I had family who lived in Fort Lauderdale. So we would go and visit pretty much almost every summer out there. So I always find Florida is such a great place. If I feel like being super touristy, then it's like, all right, we'll go to Orlando. But for the most part, it's like, oh, let's just go to hang out in Miami and lay out by the beach and just kind of enjoy life for a little bit.
Yeah, it's crazy because someone asked me when I was in LA, I think I was on my way back home, and they were saying like, oh, you from Miami, it's more tropical than here. And like my first time being to LA, just seeing stuff from the TV, I always felt like LA was a beautiful city, and it still is a beautiful city. Like it's amazing. I want to go back, but it's kind of like when I went through for the first time seeing the person, I'm like, dang, like it's kind of like the desert out here too. I remember seeing the palm trees and stuff, and I remember seeing the palm trees. Y'all palm trees is real tall, and real tall, but like it's like I can't explain. Like to me, it's beautiful. And then at night, it gets so cold. Like I'm not used to that. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the summer.
Yes. Oh yeah, it'll be hot all day, and then once the sun goes down, it's like, oh, I hope you brought a sweater
I was wearing some
because you're.
polo and short khaki shorts. And I wasn't prepared.
Oh.
I was not prepared. So
Yeah, the weather can kind of get you a little bit, especially if you're used to it being warm, and then all of a sudden you have that super dip in temperature. It is a
mhm,
little. It can be a little unnerving.
mhm. So while you working in music for a long time, you've seen it all. You worked in radio, um, still working in radio. So
Yes.
I ask this to a lot of people, especially a lot of veterans, in music. How do you feel about the whole streaming era? How do you feel like does it like what's the pros and cons do you feel about like the whole streaming era?
Okay, so I'll start with what I think the pros and cons are, and
Mhm.
then I'll talk a little bit about like my approach with streaming and
Mhm.
whatnot. The pros to streaming is I'm a fan of streaming. I don't think that artists get paid enough,
True.
and so there is I'm always torn with that, and so because of that, I I I do stream. I do have a Spotify account. I I say that slightly begrudgingly,
Mhm.
but do I own it? Yes. Do I pay for my Spotify account? Yes, I do, because
Mhm.
artists get paid more when people who listen a paid have a paid account. Um, so the thing about streaming is this: streaming gave artists an opportunity that nothing else had at the time. No matter what happened, even if you made a mixtape and you were on a mixtape and
Mhm.
somebody could shop that tape for you, and on radio, there were still so many barriers to entry. There were still the gatekeepers, and there were still people who were saying no.
Mhm.
And on the streaming platform, all of a sudden, the door was open for you to walk through it, and that for an artist, I think the access to millions of people is something that is such a pro, because now, and when I look at streaming, I'm taking everything into consideration here. I'm looking at, Spotify and Pandora, but I'm also taking into consideration things like TikTok, unless you want to make that a separate conversation. But
We could talk about that
having,
too, because social media,
yeah,
social
social
media
media is
grown.
it's a totally different animal. I think
Mhm.
I consider them in streaming almost like kissing cousins
Mhm.
a little bit. But let's going back to the streaming thing. Streaming is the pros to streaming was huge access to so many people who were eager to find new music.
Mhm.
The cons to that was that you weren't getting paid
Exactly.
at all. So that is the heartbreaking thing. Now, what I do personally is I'm quick to, if I like 3 songs on an album that an artist came out with, I will buy the music. I'm quick to, like, once 3 songs are added from an artist on like my Spotify playlist, that album gets bought, um, because I think that they deserve
You
that
deserve more.
album sale.
Yeah.
They deserve a ton more. If they're touring, I'm a huge fan of going to live music. Um, uh, what you call it? COVID just wreaked havoc on the live music scene, but I'm leery. But it's to say that I haven't bought concert tickets or been to shows since COVID happened would be a lie, because I have. I have found other ways to support artists at this point, because I know that streaming is not a way for an artist to sustain making any amount of money, and it's not fair. I mean, you can't justify to me having a song streamed millions of times
Mhm.
only for the artist to get like $10,000. That doesn't make
Yeah, it
sense.
don't
Even
add
if
up.
it's even it just doesn't add up. And the problem I have with these platforms is like, hey, look, their whole thing is, well, music licensing is allowing for this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, the problem here is that you guys aren't paying these artists what they deserve to be paid. If they stop putting music on your platform, you don't have a product. So what are you going to do? How are you going to fix it? And I feel bad, like when you look at Tidal is a fantastic example of this. Tidal, the music platform Tidal, was so great and was like, hey, we're going to pay artists more to be on our platform. And there were just so many artists who did not jump at that opportunity. And I think for musicians, that was a missed opportunity, because here was a platform that was willing to pay artists not necessarily exactly what they're worth, but closer to what they were worth, or at least a lot more than what they were getting paid through Spotify, and they didn't jump at that opportunity. That was like the door was unlocked, and they didn't walk through that, because that could have changed the whole conversation. If people had left Spotify and went to Tidal, that would have caused Spotify to have to pay artists more for their music. And it would have changed the conversation, because then it would have created a sort of bidding war that the artist would have been no matter who won that, the artist would have won as well. And to me, like I said, that to me was such a lost opportunity, because I felt like for musicians, there was only going to be really one shot to take back control of their music. And Tidal to me was at least the start of that conversation that could have started that, and it was such a lost opportunity, and I was very sad about it.
So speaking of Tidal, so do you just stream on Spotify, or you use multiple platforms?
I only stream on Spotify, or I'm on the artist page. So, if an artist has a Bandcamp, and like I said, my whole thing is I will buy music. I don't have a problem buying music. If I like an artist, and there are so many that I like, I don't have a problem forking over the cash. So if I'm like, man, I'm really feeling, this artist, they've got an EP out, I'm shelling out the $10-15 to support them, because to me, that's still what needs to happen. And yes, I'll watch a music video on YouTube, like on repeat, if I'm feeling that song, because I know that artists get paid more for their music to be on YouTube than on Spotify.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have a problem paying with money or with my time. It doesn't matter. Like, to me, artists need to be supported one way or another, and whatever I can do as a patron, as somebody who also exists in this realm, whatever I can do to help is what I do.
Yeah, same here. Cause I remember when T-Pain put out that like the list of streaming services and how much they get paid per stream. I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like,
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, like you literally have to be like someone like a Drake or Kanye or Jay-Z or Kendrick or J. Cole. But even with they numbers they make, I still feel like they should get paid more than what they what they streaming like numbers are. Cause like I tell these, the younger generation all the time, I said, can you imagine if your favorite artist was in an era of CDs, and cassettes, how much more money they would have? Now with the streaming service, it kind of gave more independent artists a little bit more easy way to get their music out there. Like, this is me from like a DJ perspective, but also at the same time, it made it more easy for them to get shelved. Because even back in the day, even if you got shelved and your CD was in the back, 8 out of 10 times someone would still try to look. They'll try to dig deep back in the shelf and be like, oh, I only see this one copy of this artist. Let me check them out. Like you literally in this era, you literally have to be like a music geek to really like I'm gonna listen to, and there's people like us out there, but you have to listen
Oh yeah.
to thousands and thousands of songs a week to find that, that I want to say that diamond in the rough, 'cause, a lot of people. I've seen studies where people, who have streaming service, they just listen to like, the bigger artists, and it no matter what genre it is. Like they listen to the big artists right now, and they listen to the legends.
Right.
And then you have a small group like us that would love to listen to up and coming artists. So I just feel like still young. Still streaming, still young. I have my mixed feelings about it. Because for me, one day when I make so much money, I want to buy. I want to buy albums. I want to buy. Even singles. If they have like, I love how like, for example, Spotify, how they have the artists that you follow, and if they if they have any like concerts coming out or anything, like I love that the way that you can be like, okay, I want to go see this artist on this day. And then even with YouTube on some of the YouTube channels, if an artist is selling like apparel and like they have some for sale, or they have like some of them sell like what's it called? I'm sorry, like vinyls.
Like their merch.
Yeah, like merch, and
Yeah.
have vinyls. I'll buy it, just to support that artist because I listen to the artist. So, but I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, but it also is on the artist as well to have stuff for that platform. If you're creating rabid fans and people are like, dude, I love this person. I don't care whatever they're coming out with, I'm buying. There needs to be something that they're coming out with. Just spend the money to get the hoodies made and the hats and things like that, so that people can invest in you. People want to be fans. People want to be fans of stuff. There are people who want to be fans of the popular artists, but there are also those people who just want to be fans of, it's like, hey, it is cool to not be, to still be in love with music that nobody's that has discovered yet. And I think that's a thing that a lot of artists, especially up and coming artists, and it could be just, it's a lack of resources thing where it's like, hey, I've got to spend all my money to get this music made. But it's like, no, you've got to also spend some money to get some shirts made so that when they like your music, they can have a sweatshirt and they can have, something of yours with your name on it, so that they can support that as well. And there's a certain amount of pride that comes when you're wearing a T-shirt from a band that you love.
Right. And for you, that's you working on radio for a long time. Do you think radio would be like, I don't want to say dead, but like, do you think radio will not exist in the next 10 years? Or do you think that radio somehow, some way will just adapt, to like how they always done, like just adapt to the times?
Radio is always going to figure out some way to stay relevant. They just are. Radio is always going to be something that's going to attempt to stay relevant. Whether they are or not is a totally different thing. But remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, right before streaming really took off, radio started with these HD channels. And these were like these off-the-wall channels that a lot of stations still have. But that was their way of not necessarily breaking into the streaming era, but trying to find some way to create some amount of relevancy, right? So you had these stations that were creating these other side stations that maybe weren't playing the stuff that the normal station was. So it's like, okay, cool. You like the station, they play R&B, but this HD station plays old R&B from like the 90s or from like the 70s and stuff. And so they were creating these channels that were appealing to a different niche of people. Now, what's happened, especially because of streaming, is that you've got a lot of radio stations now creating podcasts from their morning shows.
Right.
So you can miss their morning show, and then all of a sudden their morning shows being 2 hours later, it's on iHeart's like podcast platform, and so you haven't missed anything. So they're going to stay relevant. They're going to fight and claw, and even when they can't fight and claw and win that way, they're going to just cheat and create laws to get in the way. I mean, a lot of the laws that are created that have been a hindrance to streaming company, to online radio stations, to podcasts and stuff like that were created to protect radio stations from streaming.
Right.
The problem was that, you know, the changes in the royalty rates for online radio stations and for podcasting, that happened because radio was trying to figure out some way to protect itself, and podcasting was the Wild West and nobody knew how to regulate it. So when the FCC tried to regulate it, they had created this really weird model for artists to get paid through podcasting and online radio stations. The caveat to that was that Spotify had better lawyers and had weaseled some deal so that they could still screw over artists and the podcasters and everybody else. And it was like, oh, so you just made this difficult for other people. But it was just like a collaborated effort between traditional radio and streaming platforms like Spotify to figure out some way to kind of skirt a system that was trying. It had the best of intentions, but when people create laws about things that they don't understand, it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well for the people they're trying to actually protect.
That's true, and like the reason why, because I like to ask that question, and of course, you know, I think satellite radio is becoming a little bit more and more popular. I feel like the time when satellite radio came out, it was a little bit too ahead of its time. Just because, like, you know, like you said, it came out with HD, you know, channels, high definition channels. Now with like Sirius XM radio, people like they going with the times. Where same thing like what I know in the iHeart Radio app, you know, they could like you said earlier, like if you missed a morning show, you could go either go on Spotify or wherever they have podcasting, you know, available, or you could just, I guess, go on the iHeart Radio app or any, like, you know, I know what's the other one? It's TuneIn app. They TuneIn does that as well, and you could just listen to it. But it's just like, you know, for me, I'm a '90s baby, so for me, radio was still relevant, especially in the 2000s and even like, you know, early 2010s, and it's just right now it's like, you know, it's becoming so much robotic, like it's so much like how you call this? It's so many record labels paying, you know, these radio stations to play a certain artist every 30 minutes. Where back in the day, I remember they used to have, like down here, they used to have what was it? It was Wednesdays and Fridays. They used to have like was like artist showcase. It was every radio station down here had a different saying, but it was either on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, or even sometimes like Saturday nights, where they have like they just play an artist's music, they interview the artist, and you know the artist, you know, they blew up. Now it's just like, you know, artists got to go on different podcasts, you know, other radio stations, satellite radio, internet radio. Like, it's just, I feel like it's more work for the artist than it was back in the day.
It is a lot more work. And the other thing is, it's a lot of work, but what is also happening is this work at some point was being done by the record label. You know, the label was like, hey, you sign with us. We've got a marketing department our whole, and a promotions department. Our promotions team's job is to get you on a bunch of of radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
We shop your song. We do this. Like, hey, we don't necessarily pay out, but if you're playing this artist, here's 30 concert tickets to this almost sold out show, so that you can give these away, and you're like the hardest, this is the hardest show to come by. That's that the professionalism that was associated with that is not necessarily there as much now, unless you're signed to some huge label. Other than that, you're now left to do that stuff on your own.
It's crazy out here. It's really crazy out here. A lot has changed. A lot's
changed, but it's opened the door. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're adding, and I don't want to say a negative spin to it. But I mean, I think we're having a very realistic conversation about it. Mm-hmm. But again, the fact is, another way to look at it is you don't need the marketing agency anymore. You get to do this yourself. You can figure this stuff out. Mm-hmm. People can figure it out. It just takes a little bit of time. And if you're hungry enough and kind of business savvy enough, it's like, oh, this is what it takes. This is what I need to do. And one of the things, and I always tell artists that one of the most untapped kind of markets as far as what artists really need to be looking at is maybe not necessarily spending so much time trying to get on the radio, mm-hmm. but maybe they need to start working more on trying to get placement in television and in YouTube videos, like YouTube web series and things like that. Because that's really where and MTV, God rest their soul.
We could talk about that. We could talk about that too. We could definitely talk about
MTV
that.
MTV was one of these places that really took the time to understand how music could be used. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know, I grew up when MTV played music.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
Night. Like, I knew MTV as a music video channel. Like that was how I found artists. That's how I would sit there with a VCR and record stuff like as a kid. Like, oh man, I love this music video. I'm gonna sit here all day in front of the TV during summer and would record the videos. But when they started doing reality TV shows, one of the things that they did that was really smart and still very helpful to artists was they would still highlight music in their shows. They would still highlight, they would play almost a whole part of the song, and at the end of these episodes, they would show you the album cover. Oh, Salt Music played tonight came from blah, 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 blah band, and this is what their album looks like. You can get it today at Tower Records. That was still beneficial and smart because people would listen to a song and go, man, I really dig that song. I'm going to go buy that album. And there was also music consumption was different because we could hear a song, a single, and just be like, nope, I'm just going to buy the whole album, as opposed to now where it's, I'm going to just like this one song. I can't tell you how many CDs I owned because I liked the song and the rest of the CD was just garbage. It's like, oh, that was a mistake. That was poorly planned,
Yes.
But I had it. It's like, I don't, even when my friends are like, no, that's not a good CD. No, I have to own it. I love this one song so much. And then I get the CD and I'm like, oh, they were right.
Yeah,
this is terrible.
Yeah, but you had it because,
I wanted to support the artist. I loved the song.
Man, for me, I'm glad you brought up MTV. VH1 back in the day. BET, even the country music channel, they don't show music videos no more. They have like shows, reality shows.
All of them, yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like I was just talking with a group of my friends the other day on how back in the day BET, from like when I remember, like they had like a lineup. They had shows from like I think from like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning till like maybe 12, and then they had like all the rest of the shows was just music
It was just
videos.
different types of music videos played at different times. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it was like, all right, cool. I know at 8:00 the R&B, like the sexy R&B songs are going to be getting played.
Yes.
And I know at like 3:30, 4:00 time, it would be the like hip hop was going to be played because that's when everybody got out of school. Like that, all of this channels had that sort of format, and then just now it's all trashy soap opera type shows and bad reality TV where we just literally bring out the worst in each other or in ourselves, and it's just like, why is this a thing?
Nah, but it's
why are we watching this? What is this?
Yeah,
we're better than this, people.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy, but you know, just like what happened with television, you know, YouTube came around, and then you know the streaming services, like they got music videos now, but it's still not the same to me. Like I tell people all the time, it's not the same just to go on BET, to go on MTV. And I heard something about they were trying to bring that back. They were trying to bring like TRL, and then they were trying to bring back I know BT was trying to bring back, I think, Rap City or something like that. Like they trying to bring back like the older shows, and I feel like it can work, but they can't. They have to, like, for me, the television the television, like the channels, they have to the networks, they have to they can't just do it for a few months and then pull out. Like they have to at least try it for like a whole year and a half, and just like, you know, take faith, because Revolt TV, Revolt, to me, the only thing that they missing is, you know, they may be missing a couple like shows, a couple good shows that keep people, you know, tuned in and stuff. Like I love how they have like the podcast shows and everything, but they still got like, you know, they still got places where, you know, they have like shows where they show nothing but music videos. I know they had the Breakfast Club at one point. I don't know if it's still there, but I just think that, you know, we need to get back to that essence, because, you know, at the same time it will educate a younger generation on how, you know, music was back in the day, you know. So,
but it doesn't need to even be the music from back in the day. And it can, I mean, listen to us sounding like we're super old, right? Well, music back in the day, yeah. Lord. But even if we added that format and just had artists of today,
yes, like
it would just work.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, because like it'll just give them like how, you know, how they could have like the little babies, the you know, the Lizzos and everything, but just that different lineup. Like I remember MTV Jams, like it was.
I do too.
Man, it's stuff was just different back in the day. Yeah, we do. I feel like they think we old or something, but.
I know, right? For the record, we're not old.
We're young OGs. Young OGs. So let's talk about Simply Podcasting. That's your company, right?
That is my company. Yes, I run a podcast production company. I started podcasting about 13 years ago.
Oh wow!
I'm old. You're right, I am old.
But podcasting wasn't around. It was around. Like I remember when I was in high school, it was around, but it wasn't how it is now. Where podcasting back in the day,
nobody knew what it was.
Yeah, podcasting.
Nobody knew what it was. They were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, like I remember my English teacher. I was in the 10th grade. She was like, "Y'all need to listen to," and this 07. She was like, "Y'all need to listen to this podcast." I'm like, "What podcast?" And all it was just like someone was, I guess, reading. They was talking about a book, reviewing a book.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, that was back in the day when it should be played on QuickTime. That's how we
Yep.
old. Like people.
Yeah, people are like, QuickTime. What is that?
But
what the heck is QuickTime?
Yeah, so it's crazy. But tell you about your story.
Yeah, I started podcasting back in those days, the QuickTime days. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I originally started it was a music podcast called Screw Pop Culture, mm-hmm. where we would interview indie bands, mm-hmm. all genres. Originally, the show was supposed to be an LA-based show where it was like, okay, we're going to just play LA bands. We'll interview LA bands, and we'll interview LA bands. We'll play music from LA bands and that whole thing. And that lasted a whopping one episode.
Wow.
One episode after I did a show, I went to go interview a band, and then while I was there interviewing these bands, somebody said, "Hey, so I heard that you're the girl to talk to if I want my music played on your show." And again, like I said, this is when nobody knew what a podcast was. So they were like, "So is it a radio show?" And I said, "No, it's a podcast." And there was like some confusion, but then it was like, well, hey, if you're willing to play my song on your show, wherever it is, I'm going to listen and I'm going to give you my music. Mm-hmm. So what was supposed to be a local show turned into an international show pretty instantly. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the first episode was LA based. And then after that, I think even after I interviewed a band on Saturday, and by Wednesday I was, in Hollywood interviewing another band from Kentucky. And so it was always just like this random thing. So I did that for years. And I always told people, look, I'll give you a shot. Your stuff will get played on the station at least once, on the show one time. If I like it, then I'll play it again, but I'll at least play it once. And I had some basic rules because I am who I am about music, which disappointed a lot of rap artists because it was like being a Black female in this space. It was like, look, I'm not going to play music that has the N-word and that refers to women as anything derogatory because I don't want to.
Right. No, that's understandable.
There was a lot of freedom in making that decision. And it was sad because there were a lot of talk, and this goes back to artists either getting it or they don't get it. So there were a lot of artists who balked at that and said, well, no, this is just who I am. And then a lot of artists said, hey, I respect what you're doing. Here's 3 radio-friendly songs. Mm-hmm. And that's what I told them. I said, look, just make it radio-friendly. Just make it so that I can play this. And if my mom happens to tune into my show, I don't have to have this conversation with her about why I played some song that had women being referred to all kinds of ways. Mm-hmm. When I wouldn't even let a person talk to me that way. So you're not going to sing to me that way if I won't let you talk to me that way, you know? And so that turned into barely being able to scrape together a show into I had way more music than I knew what to do with. And so I created an online radio station, which was Radio KSCR, which still runs today. Where I would, we were streaming 24/7 like any other online radio station. We, at one point, we still have a lot of shows, but we had shows, we had, all different types of things. It was still a very heavy music based station, but there's just certain things that I personally love. I'm a sucker for old time radio. So I like having old time radio stuff being played in the evening. And I like teaching people things about politics without having to I like just giving the information out there without trying to persuade them one way or another. So, we have a show that it's just a bunch of different lectures from very prominent people, in different in different spheres. And it's just like, hey, look, the information's here for you to make a decision. I play all kinds of music. I mean, I'm a rock girl at heart. So, a lot of stuff is heavily rock focused, but to say that there isn't some really great like hip hop artists out there that I haven't played would be a lie. I mean, I love hip hop as much as I love rock. My whole issue was, I grew up in the suburbs in the 90s. I didn't know anything about life on the streets. It's like, dude, I'm from the suburbs. What streets? Gangster rap is not gonna appeal to me because I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. No one I know has gotten shot. There was never that thing. It's real. It's just like, I know that this world exists. This isn't my world. This is, my parents don't understand, so I'm going to sit here and be depressed and listen to Radiohead as opposed to listen to Snoop Dogg because it's like, I don't understand what he's talking about. Because I didn't. It's like I like the beat, but I'm not here. Like, this isn't my life. I have to deal with homework and sports. That's it.
No, that's understandable because that's one thing about our generation. We always stood our ground. We always been ourselves. It's just that this generation, like, it's you got kids from the suburbs who think they bout that, and then it's like, I don't know. It's a whole different era.
It's hilarious.
They don't know how to have fun. It's
hilarious. No, it's like, and I remember we all, everybody goes through this phase where they're too cool for school, and they're like, look, I can't show that I'm having fun because then people will think I'm weak or whatever. I remember that, but then I also remember it was still like, nah, I'm gonna still watch Power Rangers and hang out and listen to music and listen to everybody's music and go to raves and just exist and be happy because I don't know if I get to be happy as an adult. I don't know what adulthood's going to be like for me. So maybe this is as good as it's going to get. So let me just enjoy it, okay?
It's crazy. It's crazy how time changed. So, but what do you think about the landscape of podcasting right now? Like from 11, 12 years ago?
Oh my gosh. Looking at it, there's a certain amount of pride because I have been in this world for so long. So I can't knock it. I love when people decide they want to do podcasts and they come up with these great ideas and they have these great shows. And to say, I'm a cheerleader. I am a podcast cheerleader. I think that when people come up with podcasts, I'm stoked because it's like, this is great. You've got this great idea, and I am excited, and I'm excited for you. And make this show. It doesn't have to be good. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, look, your first show is going to be garbage. It's going to be absolutely terrible, and that's okay. Just keep doing it. I love that people are in this space, and I love that podcasting is still something that corporate hasn't taken over. And it's funny for me to say that, considering that Simply Podcasting worked a lot, like a good chunk of our clientele is business. But it's still something that there's just so much freedom. It's a tamer Wild West than it was 12 years ago, but it's still the Wild West because people can still create podcasts about whatever they want to create. Now, don't be stupid and create conspiracy theory podcasts that are going to detrimentally affect people's lives and not expect there to be some repercussions for that. But if you want to create a weird podcast about aliens and UFOs and candle making and whatever, go for it. Go for it. And there's somebody out there who is going to be so excited to have come across your podcast about alien making UFO candlesticks, whatever.
No, it's true. Cause...
that's just so crazy enough. I might listen to that. I'm like, dude, what is he talking about? They're making wax candles and talking about aliens. Oh, I'm here for this. This is my Saturday nights now.
No, it's true because the weird thing about it is, I started as a DJ or DJing since I was like 15. Loved it. Still do. Sometimes I miss it, like doing the full time. It just have
Right.
to take. I always tell people it have to take that one artist or two to really get me back into like, you know. Of course, I had an artist that reached out to me to do management, and you know I'm trying my best to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, do that. It's just that, you know, life. You know, I'm married. I got a kid, and then I'm, you know, doing a podcast, which is like my baby right now. So um, I tell them like I have to take people to really like be like, all right, I'm still gonna podcast, but I'm gonna go back to music, um whether it's management or just DJing. But anyway, I ain't never seen myself even, you know, doing podcasting. It just took me one day. I took a break from music, and I was just like, you know what? I know so many people from DJing and from networking. You know, why not just create a podcast and, you know, just create something that interests me? So that's when I came up with Sports Biz Music. And, you know, for him now, like it's just like you gonna be the 180th episode. So for me,
That's
it's
so
just,
great.
yeah, like it's just, I'm like, you know, I did 180 episodes, and I'm gonna go 180 more. So it's just like
At
podcasting,
least.
at least, yeah, at least. But podcasting, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, create something. Like create, if you like socks, like create a podcast to talk about socks and like how different designs and stuff like that. If you into TVs, you know, create a podcast cater to that, because there's people out here that, you know, they want to hear a specific something, whether it's a podcast or YouTube or whatever. They may want to get into, you know, design. You know, they may want to get in fashion design. They want to get in tech. You know, have something. You know, just talk about it, because you never know. It's a trillion people in this world, and out of that trillion people, it could be 500,000 people that got the same interests as you. So, you know, you
No
just
matter
never
how
know.
weird you think it is, yeah,
Yeah,
you really don't. You have no clue.
you
You're like,
know.
I think this is bizarre, and there's a whole group of people who are like, it's not. This is our jam.
Yeah. So, you know, I love it. I love it. So quick. So I have a couple more questions before we close out the show.
Sure.
One question is, because you said you love rock. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess name your top 5 rock bands of all time.
Ooh. Oh God, of all time. Oh, why? Oh, this is hard. Okay, of all time, I'm gonna have to say, ooh, good grief, you hate me. Uh, all right, it would have to be Led Zeppelin and not Stairway to Heaven. If anybody out there is like, oh, of course you're gonna say Stairway to Heaven is her favorite song, it's not. It's not. I actually hate that song with a passion. And I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. And I say, if anybody's a Led Zeppelin fan and they say Stairway to Heaven is their favorite song,
Mhm.
they're not a Led Zeppelin fan. Led Zeppelin is my ultimate favorite band. I absolutely adore Radiohead. So they are definitely number 2. I am going to have to say, and this is kind of weird because I have this like weird high-low relationship with them, but I'm a huge fan of Muse, and I have to preface that because there is like their old stuff I was in love with, and then they became really popular out here in the U.S., and then they made crappy music. It's just everything after Absolution just hurt. It just, everything after that was just like, oh, this is garbage. And then they got good again. So they had this like lull, and then they got great again. And so I still love them. When they're in town, I do make an effort to see them. I am a huge Nine Inch Nails fan because I'm a girl who grew up in the 90s. So, you know, the first time you hear Trent Reznor sing Closer, you're just like, what the heck is he talking about? But I'm 100% down for this. Like, I'm okay. And then that fifth spot, I'm going to call it's a rotating spot. Okay. And the reason why is because when I love music, I tend to just say I'm in a relationship with music or a relationship with this band, and my level of seriousness determines how like into them I am. So my fifth spot tends to always rotate out because it's just based on who my current I'm in a relationship with this band and it's serious state of mind is. So right now, and I think for the last year and a half, Rain Wolf, which is just like a guy, he's like a guy who plays, and he just makes so much noise, and he's so good and so talented. Him and Dead Poets Society, which is a band based out of, I think they're out of Orange County, California. The two of them fight it out a lot for my affection for that top 5 spot, because both of them are in heavy rotation in my house. So that's my top 5. It's like I say, to have to do that is like, oh, but I do have, you can't not love Led Zeppelin no matter who you are. There's some song, even if you're like, dude, I don't really like the rock part. They just made so many great blues songs as well that you're just like, oh, I get it. I get the fascination with this band.
Well, that's an interesting list. I'm not really heavily in rock. Like I know the typical rock bands like Creed and U2, Foo Fighters, but I'm not too in depth into rock. I got introduced to rock because I grew up a wrestling fan. So sometimes when I listen to rock, like if a rock song come on, I'm like, how you know about that? Because I'm like, I listen to, I watched anime growing up. I watched wrestling growing up. Even of course sports. Even when you watch football, they have different mixture of playlists. So sometimes they play hip hop, sometimes they'll play rock. So I know I have a knowledge of rock, but I'm not too deep into it like I am with hip hop and R&B. Even with pop, pop too as well. Pop, I have more knowledge with pop, of course.
Well, of course, yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting gift. I say gift. That's an interesting list. So if anybody heard, because for me, I got to re-listen to this podcast and I got to, listen to the bands. I'm trying to, listen to, expand my horizons, especially as I'm getting older. But last question is, where do you see yourself and your businesses 5 to 10 years from now?
Oh wow. 5 years from now, I would, the station is going to always be the station. So I'm going to keep finding new music and playing new music. I hope at some point I meet some very young, scrappy kid who's going to say, hey, I love music. Can I listen to music for you all day? And I'm going to say, yes, you can. There are so many podcasts I want to create that I would love to do. I've got so many great ideas. I'm a huge horror fan. I pretty much live and breathe horror movies, which freaks a lot of people out because they're like, well, let's watch a movie. And it's like, okay, what do you want to watch? Because there's like 16 zombie movies I still have on my like Netflix queue. Or we watch this really cool movie. I don't know what it's about, but it's in Russian. Are you down for that? I'm that person. So there's some really cool podcasts that I want to create that are like horror inspired. And so I'd like to eventually get into that, but that's a time thing. I mean, I've written scripts and everything. I'm just waiting for the time to start producing those. I do see myself working with more businesses and working with more people who want to create podcasts and telling them, hey, look, here's how we do this, and working with them as well. So, I see myself still doing everything that I absolutely love, which right now is still listening to music and helping people make podcasts. And by 5 years from now, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the LA Music Video Awards. So I'm desperately hoping that turns into something crazy. It's 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. But I have a podcast, so if any, we need to do business. I'm trying to expand my brand too as well.
Yeah.
Just let me know. And as far as like your the LA Video Awards, just let me know. Do y'all have a website?
Yeah. It's the if you go to lamusicvideoawards.net, that is the site that we have that has the past award shows on there. The thing is, we just closed the registration, so people are being notified what videos of theirs that they submitted is going to be. They know that they're nominated, so we are letting the people know. Voting is actually going to start at the end of this month for the videos out there, and I'd love if if your listeners want to vote for their favorite music videos. There is a website called Vote to Sort that we will have all of the music videos on there. It'll say 2022 LA Music Video Awards 2022, which we'll have up so that people can vote on that.
Okay, and man, hopefully one day I'll be able to come to the show.
I would love to have you as my guest. Yeah.
I love like I tell people all the time. One of the few coaches I love the most is like LA, of course Houston, and New York. I love it, but it's from a distance because a lot of these New Yorkers come down south and they become so big headed. They call us country and stuff. Say we move slow. So it's like I love the culture, but at the same time, some of the people make me not want to admit it. So
right.
But yeah, like I come out. Anything that you have, I come support.
Well, thank you.
And do you have any like shout outs before we close out the podcast?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of shout outs. I want to kind of shout out everybody who, maybe not a shout out. Let's go this route. If you are, shout out to independent artists. I love you guys. If you are an artist out there and you want to have your music played on the station on Radio KSCR, please feel free to email me at jlewis@radiokscr.com.
Okay, that's what's up. Y'all heard that. So y'all heard that. So y'all independent artists, especially the brand new ones, y'all hit up Miss Jowanna. So thank you for coming on the show again.
Thanks so much for having me.
I gotta have you come back on the show again. Still a lot of stuff that we need to talk about. But
Yes, this has been a pleasure. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much, and everybody's been your boy DJ Anonymous with another episode of Sports Biz Music, the podcast with my girl Jowanna Lewis, and we out. Peace.
See you guys.